Do you feel it's possible to be spiritual and eat animals?
No, it is not at all possible. It is just not possible. Because to be spiritual is to simply know. The spiritual one would know who he is and what is happening through him. He would not be blind to what is kept on his plate. To be spiritual is to be not fragmented. One would then really know what is this thing called hunger, what is this thing called food, and what is this thing called food chain. One would just not open the can and take the flesh and munch it. One would know where the whole thing is coming from both in a physical way and in a mental way. When you know where the entire thing is coming from, it simply does not happen. You see, a spiritual man does not relate to the other in terms of body. It is something of the I. I often ask those who consume meat, instead of proceeding with a packaged product like meat, why don't you slaughter the thing yourself? And when you slaughter the animal yourself, why don't you know it fully even as you slaughter it? After all, even from a perspective of self-interest, if something is going into your body, it makes sense to know it fully. Fully. Why don't you look into its eyes as you slaughter it? And when you look into the eyes of an animal, and if you are really awake, you will only see your own deep innocence which might be hidden from you. It is impossible to see anything or anybody else when you really look around. And that thing that you look at and that which looks back at you is most prominently visible in the eyes. It is visible everywhere. It is visible even in a leaf. It is visible in the sand. It is visible in stone. But given the limits of our identification and consciousness, it is the most visible in the eyes. So look at the animal. Pause. Meditate for a while. And then go ahead and slaughter it if you can. You will only be slaughtering yourself. I repeat, those eyes are your own primitive eyes. And when I say those are your own primitive eyes, that brings us to another interesting way of looking at it. You see, that which you call as man is divinity at the core. Then animal by evolution, and intellectual by society. The animals that you see outside of you are all present within you as well. To really know an animal is to know that of yourself which remains hidden, suppressed beneath all the social conditioning. Have you looked at kids playing? If you look at kids playing and if you look at animals playing, you won't find much difference. In fact, human kids go along very well with animal kids. Later on, when we cover ourselves with a lot of acquired knowledge, with a lot of social conditioning, then the animal within us gets suppressed. And the more suppressed it gets, the more we live in frustration and sorrow. What does that tell us? That tells us that more we are violent towards the animal on the outside, actually more we are violent towards the animal inside of us. And if we are violent towards the animal inside of us, we cannot live in any kind of relaxation. Just returned from a learning camp, and it was on the Himalayas. There we saw a lot of these jungles being hacked down. And I said, when man is hacking down these jungles, he is actually destroying the greenery within himself. When man is polluting the rivers, he is actually polluting that which flows within himself and keeps him wet from the inside. So you cannot have this misbehavior towards animals unless you are adamant that you will misbehave towards yourself as well. You are the universe. You look into the animal and you see yourself. Now how will you misbehave? You look into the animal's eyes and you find you are looking at a mirror. How will you misbehave? You pollute a river and you find that you are polluting yourself. Now how will you do that? And that is not a concept. If you really look at a river, you are reminded of something very, very ancient within yourself. That is why you are attracted to the river. Have you ever wondered why men go to the forests and to the hills? Why you enjoy a waterfall so much? It is because the waterfall is you. It is because that pristinely clear gurgle is your own. That is why you like it so much. That animal is your innocence. That animal is what you are if all language is taken away from you. And you are really craving to be that animal. That is why, given the first convenient opportunity, we like to do away with our clothes. Have you seen how kids often resist clothes? Even if their mothers would deck them up, the moment they find an opportunity, they would just unbutton themselves and go around naked. That is the animal within us seeking expression. When you kill that duck, you are killing the kid within you, because the kid identifies with the duck. The kid is the duck. The more you sit in a man-made place and have all this stuff on your plate which is actually just meat, the more you are acquiescing with the society, the more you are identifying with the intellect, and the further you are going away from the rabbit and the squirrel within you. Even the lion. I don't want to be some kind of a speciesist. Even carnivorous animals are all right. So, these jungles are very important to us, not because they provide us stuff, because they are what we are. When you bring down a tree, you have brought down a part of yourself. And having brought down a part of yourself, you have unnecessarily made yourself incomplete. From completion, you have moved to incompletion. How can a spiritual man do that? Spirituality is about moving from incompletion to completion. And killing this, destroying that is about moving from completion to incompletion. So it is not possible, not at all possible to be spiritual and yet a consumer of this, that. And I'm not referring only to meat. I mean, when you raise crops from a perspective of destroying them after their season and after their utility, it is much the same. In fact, if you are that kind of a vegetarian, it will not really take much of a push to turn you into a meat eater. And that is why you see it is not uncommon. In fact, it is fairly common for vegetarians to flip into meat eating. That which was not there cannot suddenly appear. The seeds of violence were there even when one was a vegetarian. And that is why upon persuasion and upon opportunity, one moves to meat. Vegetarianism or veganism cannot be a taught quality. It has to be something of the heart. You cannot give arguments in favor of it. It has to be a destroyer of all arguments. You are really a vegan if in spite of all arguments you are still a vegan. Tomorrow a body of evidence may arise which says that if you are a vegan, then such and such minerals and vitamins get deficient within your body. Now, in spite of all that evidence, and that evidence might be scientifically accurate, but if in spite of that evidence you say, I am what I am and I refuse to do that which is against my nature, then you are really a vegan. Because veganism is about having the right relationship with the world around you. Veganism in its essence is religion. You cannot just say, I am a vegan. You are actually stating your religion when you say that. One does not look at it that way, but that's what it really is. To be a vegan does not feel pleasurable. I know this might disappoint you, but please, it does not feel like anything. In fact, to live rightly and to have a right relationship with the world is to gain freedom from various kinds of feelings. As long as one eats to get a certain feeling, the eating would always involve violence. So if you are promoting veganism, kindly do not promote a culture of feeling, because all feeling is excitement, all feeling is experiential, all feeling is sensory, and all feeling is fleeting. One does not live by his feelings. One cannot live by his feelings. One has to live by the truth. One feels a lot in his everyday life, and that feeling itself is man's hell and torture. Why do you enjoy sleep? You enjoy sleep because sleep is a cessation of all feeling. Sleep is a non-feeling, and that's why it's the best feeling. Being a vegan, I do not feel a lot of things that others feel. I do not feel tension, I do not feel excitement, and because I do not feel pleasure, I also do not feel pain. It's a beautiful silence. It's a lovely thing. And this love that I'm referring to is not a feeling. It's something far more deeper than feeling. I'm tempted to use the word mystical, but that has its own images and connotations, so I would rather avoid. Don't live by feelings, don't live by images, don't live by experiences. You go to any of the restaurants and they'll say, come, experience this new kind of food. Is this not new cuisine, not really exciting? Now, excitement, experience, feeling, emotion, titillation, pleasure, they are all words belonging to the same family. And as long as these words carry value in our mind, as long as these words carry value in our mind, man will not be able to be kind to himself or to the world. Hmm? If excitement is a value, then there is a lot of value in hunting. If experience is a value, then it is always a new experience to kill a new species. Really understanding, that is the highest value, that is the highest freedom. Hmm? And if one does need to have a feeling, the feeling can be, must be, to be situated in that understanding. This feeling is love. That is the only thing that one wants, really wants. Then it really is love. I want to understand. I want to live by my nature. I want to live simply, innocently. This want is love. Love obviously denotes wanting. But what is it that one wants? One needs to look very carefully into that. What is it that I am wanting? That which you want will decide your life. So want only the highest, nothing less than that. Do not want feelings, they are not the highest. Rather, a freedom from feelings. That does not mean killing the feelings. That only means that one is not a slave of feelings.